Good evening, guys. Chris M here. Welcome to the 6th installment of the School of Struggle podcast. I'm here with Mark Fator and Zah Azmi. How are we, guys?
Good evening.
Good. How are you? I'm sensational. Thank you for asking. Firstly, again, I'd like to start this by, being a little bit grateful. Last week I said we're at, 1,300 on the downloads for this podcast. We just hit 2,300. It's 1,000 in a week. That's absolutely sensational. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
The only thing I ask of you guys for this is whatever value you're taking from it, do us an absolute massive favor and hit us with a review a review and what's the other thing?
Subscribe
and a review. That's what's going to help us get more eyes on this podcast and provide more value to more people as well. So if you could do that, that would be sensational. Today's podcast is all on mentors and mentorship. This one is huge for if you're trying to actually excel in an area that you aren't actually so proficient in yet, even if it's just your personal development life within itself or anywhere in any space. The actual sort of dictionary meaning for mentor is an experienced and trusted advisor. So someone that can sort of help you get through anything you don't already know yet. So it can come in any shape or form. It can be your mum. It could be your father. It could be a family member. It could be someone that you've actually paid as an actual paid mentor. It could be a school teacher. It could be anything. But essentially, it's just someone that you actually value the opinion of, and their experience and advice can take you through to the next level yourself. Boys, so being that, it's something like somewhat of a teacher. What is a mentor to you, and is it like a teacher?
I think the best way to describe mentors to everybody listening would be everyone knows professional athletes, right? So every professional athlete usually has a coach. So, like that coach is someone that teaches you, motivates you, measures your performance, all of those things, right? And that person will make you perform better, as you in your training or whatever it is that whatever sport you're playing, right? So, but in business, a lot of people think that they know everything, and they don't need anyone, right? And it's the same thing. Business is like a sport, and you do need to have those mentors and those coaches and those people that are telling you and showing you how, the right way to go. So I think that's the most relatable analogy is the professional athletes. Like, for example, Conor McGregor, hot topic at the moment, has had the same coach since, back when he was living in Ireland.
Yeah.
And now he's, world champion. And, he credits his coach.
On that, so is the Australian guy, Rob Whittaker, same coach, Fabs since day one.
Yeah,
and he's now hit the big time. So, and that just goes to show what that can do too.
So those athletes will be nowhere without those coaches, right?
Correct.
So in business or even in the workplace, if you're an employee and you're trying to excel at what you're doing, you do need that person that can hold you accountable and help you get to where you want to go. So I think it's very important to have mentors, and I have several in my life.
Yep. Yeah. I feel as though you need to have you got to have one mentor that you can turn to on a daily basis. I think, and it's also good to have mentors with access to technology these days in different areas of life as well. So, for example, just your general. For me, it is Conor McGregor with your general, overall. Just get up in the morning and see it, believe it, and it's going to happen. Like
the vision.
Yeah, he's a strong believer of that, and that for me is massive, because there's times when we leave work late at night and you just you're down and out, not because you hate your job, but you're just like, I'm exhausted. But you listen to something like that coming from him, and it pumps you up, and that mentors me to go, okay, yeah, for example, I don't have my license for another couple of years, so think of the car that I want to get when I do get my license back, those type of things, as well as, in different areas. I mean, I can't think of an exact one off the top of my head, but even if it's some form of a spiritual mentor, in a way, do you know what I mean? Someone that, personal development, whereas Zah, you're my mentor, it's you mentor me a lot in business, but you also mentor me probably more so in personal development. And I feel that, is probably the most important to have as a mentor, for me anyway. Yeah.
Cool. I love that. My first question to that is, what car are you going to get?
It's a secret.
It's a secret. I love it.
We don't even know what will be out there. Yeah. That's how far away it is.
It's a while away. Of course.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, being a entrepreneur sort of personal development podcast, I think that we should definitely touch on the benefits of having a mentor in business. For the mentor, the benefit of actually mentoring is allowing themselves to be able to give back to an organization or a mentoree or something like that, and actually help provide the value with information. Provide the person with information and value that will actually help them progress and sort of trickle down the line for the next person to do the same again and again and again, which I think is a great thing. It's like the ripple effect of great value to be taught by so many people too. And for the mentoree, it actually increases their self-confidence and actually helps them get better in their career or whatever it is they choose to do as well. When it comes down to it, I'd like to ask, who has been your biggest mentor when it comes to business?
So for me, I never really approached anyone to become a mentor because I felt like I didn't provide enough value to that person to really bounce off. So I've always looked up to people who are quite high up, and it's a lot of the time they're in the public eye. So unfortunately, once those people are in the public eye, what happens is that their time's soaked up as it is. So for me to go to that person and approach them as a mentee, what happens is that a lot of the time they're probably going to say no. So what I tend to do is I like to call them silent mentors, where I follow them on social media, or I'll read their books and I'll try and model their actions, and then just basically follow everything that they do without them even knowing it. So that's why they're called a silent mentor, because they don't know it,
of
right?
Course.
So I did a lot of that, throughout my early days of being in business, where I picked and chose my my mentors that way, and just followed them in the public eye, and then if I got to meet them down the track, then I would, right? And then I'd pick their brains as much as I could. But I think where I got the most value out of was people who I already had relationships with.
Yep.
So unfortunately, you're not going to find that one person who's going to go, all right, I can teach you everything about everything, because you're your own person. You're an individual. You might only want a certain amount of business advice from that one person, and then you might want personal development from another person. So what I used to do is, if someone excelled in something that I looked up to, and I was had a relationship with them, I would try and approach those people with a little bit of value that I can add to them, right? So I wouldn't go up to them and say, okay, can you just mentor me? Because I know that when people ask me that, like I get the shits. I go, I can't do it. You know what I mean? But if you show that you've got a little bit of skin in the game, you've got value to add, you're willing to do the work, then those people are willing to help out. So a lot of the people were my direct bosses. And when I used to work in a job, and and then when I went into business, it was my business partners. So for example, I've got a business partner who is the king of innovation, right? And then I've got another business partner who is an expert in all things property. So I take a lot of good bits away from those business partners, and I look at them as mentors. So I think the key has always been, be the dumbest person in the room.
I'm a big fan of that one too.
Yeah, and a lot of people in business, they want to be the smartest person in the room because of ego, right? But what happens is that eventually those people fall down, or they hit a glass ceiling in terms of their learning, and they think they know everything, right? And what happens is that like the people who are forever students tend to surpass them, and they'll kill it, and I'm a forever student. Even though I mentor people under me still, but I also still seek advice from my mentors as well. So like you said, Chris, it's that ripple effect,
Correct.
And you want to spread that energy down the line.
Of course, and you want to keep doing that constantly too. I feel like that's the way that you're going to provide the most value at the quickest rate possible. If you can teach so many people at the same time something amazing, then if they can share that to other people, it's sensational too. I if there's one thing I'd like to touch on as well, it's just based on what you said before. A sporting athlete has a coach and all sort of stuff too. And there's a few other things that I noted down. So in technology, when you said innovation and all sort of stuff, Mark Zuckerberg had a mentor too, which was Steve Jobs. So that's the guy that actually made Facebook. His mentor was the guy that actually innovated Apple. So I think that one's pretty huge, and it says a lot.
Were they on a personal level? Or
personal level. Which I found pretty interesting as well.
It goes to show the best of the best still need mentors.
100%. And these are two now icons in the world that people look up to and almost not even understand how they worked. Steve Jobs is an extremely interesting person. And I have a friend who read his book and still doesn't understand him. And I actually had a previous boss who was very, 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 very similar to him. And I'm not even going to try and understand the guy. But yeah, so that in the music world, if you listen to hip hop and all that stuff, Drake was mentored by Lil Wayne. And that was a huge one. Now one of the biggest people in the world, and if he didn't have that little bit of a mentorship, I don't think he would have got anywhere at the rate that he did anyway. He's a kid from Canada, for God's sake, and no one from Canada ever makes it big time except for Justin Bieber, for God's sake. That in the fashion world, YSL was the brand was Yves Saint Laurent. Is that how you say it?
Yves Saint Laurent.
Yeah, Yves Saint Laurent. Sorry, it was mentored by Christian Dior.
Yeah, right.
As a direct relationship,
right, that's
too.
Interesting.
As a direct relationship, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that just goes to show that even the best of the best in the world needs someone to actually mentor them through something, at least, you know what I mean? And it shows that if you have a good fucking mentor, you can do some crazy things too, you know what I mean?
If it's done before, then why reinvent the wheel?
100%.
So
100%.
With the property industry, for example, because we're obviously in the property industry, it's a very sort of vanilla industry. The reason being is because it's all been done before. You don't really have to recreate a new product or, come up with this, creative idea or this innovative idea because everyone needs a roof over their heads and it's never going to go obsolete, right? With population growing and, countries developing and all of that sort of stuff, there's always going to be a need for housing. So people who have done really, really well at a property, the reason why there's more and more people doing well at a property is because all of these people are mirroring what the Donald Trumps have done and, all the successful people because it's easy to just, copy the same actions, right? I think it's a bigger risk when you're doing things like, tech and, like you said, the Zuckerbergs and all of that. That is very, very risky. And, if anything, you really need mentors then because it's such a high risk, volatile industry, right?
I think that in that space you need more than one because there's so many plates to be spinning to make that one thing happen.
That's right. Sure. But with what we do, I find that look, I've got multiple mentors in the property industry as well, but you don't really need a hell of a lot because like one person's strategy works. It's proven. Like it just model those strategies. You know what I mean?
I wholeheartedly agree. And I actually had a conversation with one of my mentors on the weekend, and I actually asked him for some advice on something. And his advice on that was essentially, success generally tends to leave clues. Go ask the people that know what the fuck they're talking about. And that if you ask the right questions, even if you get 10% of the answer you were after, you're 10% ahead of where you were going to be in the first place.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
I've put into practice this week and it's actually come to fruition pretty quickly too, you know what I mean? So always learning, always learning. And I think the biggest thing for me is I think I've got a mentor in almost every space of my life too. In every major pillar, I've got a mentor that I'll go to for advice, even if it's just a friend or a family member or so. There's been some that I've paid in the past too, you know what I mean, for some proper mentorship sort of stuff as well. Even some co-workers, like you said, actually now business partners as well. They've come along and actually made a massive impact in my life, and it's been sensational as well. But having one in every corner of your life that is better than you is probably going to help you get better quicker. And the second that this is the bad thing to say, but when you level up, you're always going to have to find new mentors too. I think that's a big one I think that's a big one that a lot of people don't. Or something that they may not see within themselves as to why they've been stuck in some places for a while. You know what I mean? I think we had this conversation recently where we grew out of friends or whatever because at some point they were providing value to us. No longer doing that, we may have